So there are 3 methods for developing this attunement or identification with higher values, one for each of the equipments: body, mind, and intellect. So for the mind, we have gratitude and devotion. For the intellect, we have philosophical inquiry. And for the body, we have selfless action. So again, briefly, the moment we invoke a gratitude practice, what we are doing is stepping outside of the ego. The ego expresses in 2 ways. We've got here complacency and entitlement. What's complacency?
Don't care type of thing, like you just
Don't care.
or not to be affected either way. Like the pajama person.
Not being affected is a positive thing. Complacency is a negative thing. If a parent says to a child, you don't even know you're alive, you don't know how good you've got it, it's pointing at that complacency. So the child is enjoying a level of comfort and wealth in the home that the parents could have only dreamed of when they were her age. For her, it's perfectly normal. She doesn't even know that it's there. She misses it entirely. Complacency. Gratitude will help to get rid of that. You look at your life. What have I got? I've got a roof over my head. I go to school every day. I've got shoes on my feet, food in my belly. I've got a family that loves me. I've suddenly become aware of the things that I was earlier taking for granted. So gratitude gets rid of complacency. It also gets rid of entitlement, which is, I've always had it, so I should get more of it. Give me more. I deserve it. So again, the moment we have that feeling of being thankful for what we have, it's impossible for us to grasp egocentrically and ask for more. So gratitude protects us against complacency and entitlement. So it can become a daily practice, or however often is most appropriate for you. It's simply a matter of putting aside some time to examine these crevices and to ask yourself, what am I grateful for? And it's not just mechanically running through a list. You know, I'm thankful for my house and my home and tick, 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 tick. Oh, I've done my gratitude practice for today. It's not what we're talking about. We're looking for that shift in emotional tone. A simple example we've used before. Let's say you were watching the news last night and you saw a story about a young man, 25 years old. At his workplace, he got a shard of metal in his eye. He's blinded in both eyes for the rest of his life. Tragedy. Young man. Next morning, you're doing your gratitude practice. I'm thankful for my home. I'm thankful for my eyesight. I can see. Something's different about saying that. Every morning I say thank you for my home. Nothing happens. I say thank you for my eyesight, and there's a sudden shift. Something falls away. Oh, I am thankful. That's what you're looking for. That's that gratitude. And when you've found it, bathe in it, drink it in, reabsorb it. So gratitude is still ego-centered in the sense that, why is gratitude still ego-centered?
Like you said just now that you thank God and I can see, so it is ego. You are talking about I.
I'm thankful for what I have. I'm not saying I'm thankful that my neighbour has vision. I'm not thankful that my complete stranger across town has a house. I don't even think about that. So devotion then is surrendering that small egocentric notion of I know, which is another way of saying surrendering our limited, individualized perspective. How do we do that? One of the great ways is simply attuning to the wonder of nature. How does nature do what it does? How does a blade of grass get pushed out of the ground? How does a plant become a sapling, then a tree, which becomes fruit, which I can eat and nourish myself? How does that happen? How does that happen? Yeah, okay, light has that physical thing, the electron exchange and all the rest of it. Yeah, fine. How does that happen? Why is it that way and not another way?
The power of creation.
Power of creation, which is another way of saying,
That's miraculous.
I don't know. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. I don't know. Whatever the mechanics of nature is, It's happening and I don't know how it happens. I don't know how the whole thing got kicked into existence. It's a wonder, it's a miracle. In fact, they use this word in the Bhagavad-Gita, ascharya, which means wonderment. Just look at nature functioning, ascharya, ascharya. It's a wonder. Cut yourself, fall off your bike. Immediately what happens? The body starts to heal itself. How? I don't know. Can I order it? No. Can I stop it? No. How does nature know what to do? Ascharya. And I'm just one small speck in this whole amazing. Surrender that ego. Music can do the same thing. A religious affiliation can do the same thing. So if you have a relationship with a god or a prophet or a messiah or whoever it happens to be, by all means that can help to elicit it, etc. So etc. simply means that there'll be a range of different ways, and we've got to find what is appropriate for each of us. Second is philosophical inquiry. It's what we've been doing here today. It's investigating what is true, what is real. So the reason that this works is that the reality, the truth, is never ego-centered. The truth is not individual. The truth is universal. So the more I identify with the truth in that ascending order of value, my experience of myself and my experience of life becomes more universal. My ego starts to drift away. Or you can put it another way, I occupy a more universal perspective. So as a practice, it means daily questioning and reflecting. You pick up a philosophical text, read through a very small portion, question it, go back, read it again, question it, keep questioning, get to the depth of it. Don't take anything for granted. The other aspect we sometimes discuss is introspection. Introspection develops, or rather makes the intellect available. It's basically nothing more than recollecting everything we've done for the entire day from start to finish. It's the last thing we do in the evening. It takes 5 to 6 to 7 minutes. Just remember, like watching a video on fast forward, watching a DVD on fast forward. What happens when we do this is that we are starting to develop an awareness of the sort of mental habits, the mental patterns that we exhibit, our reactions to the triggers. I keep reacting the same way to that annoying guy at work. If I start to become aware of this, then when he starts to do his annoying thing, I'm ready for it because I know what is going to happen. He's going to do it and I'm going to get frustrated. Not today, because I'm ready for it. And the last of the practices is selfless action. Find out what your roles are, what your goals are, and what your obligations are, and perform them without any expectation of the result. We know what the result is that we're going towards, but without any kind of dependency upon the result. The mind is not flowing on its own to the future any more than it would flow on its own towards the past. So what this means is working for an ideal. An ideal is a goal that lies outside egocentric interests. This is how we dispense with that result orientation, which disturbs the present action. Another way to put it is to say, after you, whatever environment you are in, the other person's well-being you put first, the other person's needs you put first, or the other group, or the other environment. The environment of the need comes first. It's a way of stepping outside of my own personal perspective. So these three integrated together, over time we step out of our limited perspective, we develop or we identify with higher values, and as a consequence we develop greater objectivity. Then no matter what life throws at us, we can accommodate any change. The individual perspective is gone. It means you have the universal perspective now. So you walk around this world in your life and all of your relationships without a limited, egocentric, constrained perspective. You have a universal perspective on everything. Perfect objectivity. So this is a very high state to reach, but it's an important goal for us to set, to give ourselves that direction for all of our activities and all of the other choices that we make. I'll give you a great example of objectivity. So our teacher, Swami Parthasarathy, he tells this story. He was in Chennai with his daughter, and he was continuing on with his program, and she was going to fly back to Mumbai. And he said, "Why are you flying? You've got all of this luggage and all of these boxes. Take the train, no?" And she said, "We want to fly." "Okay, fine, you do what you like." So this is many years ago, before mobile phones. So story goes that he received a phone call at some point saying that flight, it's crashed. Everybody has perished. And so he's just been told his daughter has perished, his only daughter, his only child. He says his reaction at that time was, one chapter of my life has closed, another chapter of my life has opened. The daughter died in the plane crash. Who else died? Who else? Who else died in that plane crash? Who else? The father. The father also died in that plane crash. I no longer have a daughter. I no longer have any children. So my role as a father has gone. But if I'm attached, I cling to the role of father, I cling to the relationship, and I suffer. That ability to let it go, to let life just flow gracefully. Now, he doesn't go into the quality of emotions that were flowing through his personality. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is to be able to let things go. That level of objectivity we have available to us as human beings. Few of us are there now, but recognize that it's a goal that we can reach with consistent effort. And every step along the way is an improvement. Oh yes, sorry, thank you. I've done this so many times. The coda to the story is that they took his advice and ended up taking the train. Yeah. I get so involved in this, in the point of the story, I forget to tell you the main point.
She should have taken the train.
So she took the train, and it turns out, so he found out later on, and of course no one had died, well, except for those in that particular plane. But that's his experience. That was his way of describing that, receiving that news. Quote here from Arthur Schopenhauer. He's talking about Vedanta. And he says, "It has been the solace of my life, it will be the solace of my death." So what it means is, as life goes through, it's been a solace because I've been able to accommodate changes. It will be the solace of my death. The final change, the biggest change, the one that none of us can escape. Death, it's coming for all of us. What will my relationship to that be like? When my body will be gone, all my relationships will be gone, all of my good works will be gone. What happens next? Is it just the lights get turned off and that's it? Or is there some experience after this? Is it a heaven and hell? Is it a reincarnation? Who knows? I don't know. But in any event, I know that it's coming. We often talk about living a good life. Vedanta philosophy helps us do that. But you could argue more important than that is to die a good death. What does it mean to die a good death? And how do we achieve that? If I'm not objective to my entire life, then when I recognize that it's going to be taken away from me, I will suffer. The party's continuing and I have to leave. I don't like that idea. My life is going to be taken away from me. Everything will be taken away from me. I've got to be able to let that go with some grace. That is objectivity. And so the best time to start developing objectivity was long ago. Second best time is right now. So the three practices and those short term will help us to develop objectivity over time. It's a challenge, yeah, it really is. But it's something that we can achieve, and it's something that we've got to invest a lot of time into. If we want to own a home, we're quite happy to invest 30 years of our life to gain the ownership in that home. We should be willing to put 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 80 years to gain something far more valuable than a piece of property. The problem is we don't see the value until we spend time reflecting on these ideas. When we see the value, then we will put the time and attention into it, and not until then. Okay, now the queries before we conclude.